Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the SITREP or summary for the day of 627 to 630 for the 12 to 15 of November. Actually, I should just put it on the screen. Wait, there you go. Put it on screen. So, let's. There's something wrong with my mouse. I think it's going to spoil soon. Sometimes I click one time, it becomes two times. So let's see how it messed up this recording. There is a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Pavlorad on the 15th of November. Of course, it did not happen because if you don't trust the Russians, then it did not happen. Over at this Kherson Front. At the Kherson Front, battle continues over at Kreminna with the Ukrainian forces attack on the 10th. They tried to push out. However, after that, most of it is actually the Russians actually doing the counter attack with on the 12th and the 14th. Deep State UA and Ryba are both reported about this battle. The Ukrainians actually have we have geolocated them over here, here, and here, so which means that at least they're going to have this kind of position. The Russians are actually located at this position, which actually signals that the Ukrainians might be just nearby. So there is certain positions within the south of Kreminna which the Ukrainian forces actually held some of this forest region, but moving further south, it actually got then destroyed. And the Russians pretty much is on the counter-offensive, most of it. And so far, the situation around Kreminna continues to be difficult for both sides, actually. Reinforcement was reported. You can see, I click once, it becomes double. So there is reinforcement from the 35th, 36th, and 38th Marine Brigade transferred to the central part of Kreminna under the cover of artillery and mortar. And then the two detachments from the 36th actually enters the forest, which actually corroborates the information about the Ukrainians entering the forest and defending within the forest region. Ukrainians are pretty good at defending within the forest, so let's see how this goes. So the fighting at Kreminna continues. The battle for Kreminna is going to be pretty pivotal. It really will define whether the Ukrainians would have any possible chance of actually taking the southern part of Kherson. I'm not sure if the mic is too loud for you, but anyway, yeah, just leave with it, man. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front. So at the Zaporizhzhia Front, there is development over at the Kamyanske sector. So this is Kamyanske. As you can see, the mouse going crazy. There is fighting reported at Pyatikaki. This is the first time in a long time we saw fighting over this region, with the Russian forces on the 14th of November launch an attack towards Pyatikaki. This attack was somewhat geolocated as well. I can see I didn't mean to do that. It was a double click. So so there was geolocation as well on the 12th, showing the Russian infantry under fire from Ukrainian drone just outside of Pyatikaki. And then there is another geolocation by military summary on the 13th, showing that the Russians are attacking Ukrainian forces within this farm-like thing, or is that the cemetery? I'm not sure. So that is the situation now. There is a possible high good chance that the Russians have some positions within some of the houses within Pyatikaki already. Ukrainians are still within Pyatikaki, so we could imagine Ukrainian forces continue to send reinforcement down to Pyatikaki to meet with these Russian forces. As we all know by now, Ukrainians don't like to lose grounds, regardless whether the ground is good or bad. So we shall see how this goes over at the Kamyanske sector. Moving into the Orikhiv sector. So this is Orikhiv. At the Orikhiv sector, there is fighting reported mostly around the Robotine region, and most likely it's going to be actually in the western part of Robotine. Let me mute my WhatsApp. So 13 to 15, we saw the Ukrainians actually attacking, reported by the Russian Defense Ministry, Deep State UA. Whereas, I'm so sorry. Whereas Ryba and Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians attacked from the 10th to the 12th. Which day is it? From the 12th to the 13th. So the Russians are actually still trying to push, whereas the Ukrainians now mainly on the counter. The situation here continues to be pretty stalemate like with this fighting. Don't really change much of the front line. However, we do have some signs of possible frontline changes. Kreminna Caprice on the 14th of November actually geolocated a Ukrainian attack. M113 was destroyed over at this position. The Ukrainians were pushing for Prokopivka, and geolocation there's another one geolocation around this tree line, so they are actually making this push. It was not exactly reported. It could be a possibility that the reports about fighting near Robotine is actually in the north of Prokopivka, but generally speaking, we don't have any reports from anyone saying that the fighting is at Prokopivka. So yeah, just we have to live with it. However, Robotine continues to be a pretty dangerous place for Ukrainian forces, with FPV drone destroying a minibus within Robotine. So situation continues to be pretty stalemate over at the Robotine region. At the Vobove region, we do not have any fighting being reported. There is only geolocation of Ukrainian forces being shelled by the Russians over at this tree line at this position. This is a space of nothingness, so pretty despairing. As before I move on to the next front line, as you may see some of these footages that I have been putting up on the war channel, the winter is coming soon. Snow has fallen in the Volgograd region, or maybe it's another place. Somewhere north of Russia, snow has already fallen. Within Ukraine itself, the situation has become muddy and wet. Rainfall has caused certain flooding or ponding situation within the ground. So it's going to get more and more colder and more difficult. And this time around, it's going to be pretty different. Over at the DPA Open Mic, we did talk a bit about all these things, and I do encourage you to go and watch it. And anyway, Hulyaipole sector. This is Hulyaipole. And Hulyaipole sector, we have some fighting reported at Chervone region. On the 15th of November, Russian Defense Ministry reported that they attacked Ukrainian forces near Chervone. But it's not an assault. It's more like a fire mission against Ukrainian forces over at this position. Yeah, this continues to be the grind. It doesn't feel like a offensive operation per se. Over at the Velyka Novosilka sector, so this is the sector. At the Velyka Novosilka sector, we have Russians continue their assault within the entire region, with fighting reported at Uruzhaine, Staromayovsky, or the west of Staromayovsky, towards Rivnopil, towards Novodarivka. So this is Novodarivka, Rivnopil. So towards that direction. And there's nothing over at Prione, so that's something new. But all this push is pretty tactical. It's nothing. It's not like a real push, but there are some push that seems to be done at Uruzhaine, but that failed. So advance to Uruzhaine was unsuccessful. So according to Ryba, for the 14th of November, so there is some purposeful push, but it's not very a very determined kind. So it did not work out, and the Ukrainians are defending pretty well in this region. The same thing happens over at the west of Staromayovsky. Ryba reported that the Russian forces tried to expand the zone of control and take important heights west of Staromayovsky, but it failed. The 5th Combined Arms Army has not been able to fulfill this task. So the Ukrainians, despite the sentiment among the people who are focusing on this or watching this war might feel like the Ukrainians are faltering, it is important to note that the Ukrainians still have pretty good fighting capabilities, and they have very good defensive capabilities. They are still holding the lines, fighting very bravely against the Russian forces. So this is not this front line actually shows the exact situation, that the Russians do not have the capability right now to just overrun the Ukrainian positions at will. So let's wait and see whether this situation will deteriorate. So anyway, over at this Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, there's a geolocation of Ukrainian forces pretty much further up north. Artillery guns getting destroyed by Lancet. So this geolocation simply shows that the Lancet is back on the front line, because we haven't seen much Lancet footages, I would say. So it seems like a resupply has arrived, I think. Over at the Novodonetsk region, the Russians actually did a push west of Novodonetsk. They did this push down this tree line, and it was unsuccessful. It was actually reported by the Russian Defense Ministry on the 14th of November. It was then corroborated by Ryba. And then they say that this force that was doing this push north is actually the 37th Motorized Rifle Brigade. And however, they were destroyed or scattered by Ukrainian fire, and then the battered units will withdraw. You see, this is the double click problem. Yeah, I know this is going to be a problem. I will need to buy a new mouse. So the Russian forces, after the failed push, as they get wiped out, they actually withdraw back to their original position. So this actually, like I said earlier, the Ukrainians still have capabilities of defending and holding the line. So do not dismiss them. This war is still not yet over. So over at the south of Zolotan Neva, we have a report of Russians attacking, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 13th. So this push most likely is nothing much, probably tactical, because it's just one day. And moving on over at the Voleda region, we have the fighting being reported near Voleda, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Mainly is a fire mission. And at the Mikhailsky region, we have another attack by the Russians against the Ukrainians. Similarly, it looks like just a fire mission. It's just tactical in nature, to hit the Ukrainian positions and to weaken them, so for an eventual actual offensive operation that they can actually push out towards in the future. Most likely this is still far away. I don't think it's anytime soon, because the situation here is nothing like what is happening over at the Avdiivka Front, where where all the airstrikes and artillery seems to be concentrating on, with heavy armor rush, tank rush, and whatnot. So this is not the situation here just yet. Novomihailivka continued to see fighting over the last few days, 12th to 15th, with reports from the Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian Defense Ministry, all reporting about the fighting within this region. So there must be some very serious fighting for both sides to be both reporting about this, and we do not have much details about the fighting around here, except that they are fighting over here. So the details tend to come from the OSINT, the open source intelligence. For example, Deep State UA, Ryba. These are the people which have direct contact with people from the ground that are able to tell them detailed informations, or at least know more or less what is happening. So if you depending on the defense ministries from both sides, you don't usually have much information. At Marinka, we have the traditional the scam continue on the 14th and the 15th, as the Ukrainian Defense Ministry continue to scam us about the fighting over this region here. So I wonder if I forget to update 13. No, never mind, it's okay. There is continued fighting around this Marinka region, and as usual, moving on into the Avdiivka Front. As I mentioned, this is the main front line where the Russians have the most concentrated fightings, with fighting reported over at the east of Novokalinove, south of Novokalinove, towards Stepove, towards the Koplan, and south of Krasnohorivka, in the south of Avdiivka, towards Zhevene, towards Tonenke, towards Vodian, and also the east of Pervomaiske. So as you can see, the direction of the attacks. So there is, and then there's actually another one which I did not exactly map. It was actually mentioned in the same report about the fighting in the south of Novokalinove, is actually pushing towards the direction of Ocheretine. So I starting to feel like there is some possibility where they might go for Stepove, Badaichi, Novokalinove, and then they will go down the railway track, taking Novobakhmutivka and Ocheretine, and this could extend to the outer, some kind of outer pincer or flanking movement along the railway line, which could also cut off the reinforcement route, because the moment you reach this area here at Sokil, this is gonna be a big problem already if they can reach here. And then if you look at the roads, this is the only road out from Novosilka, Persia. So this is one of the major road. Then there's other less ideal road through the Yasno-Brodivka region. So this is the one road through Lashtikine to Avdiivka, and then there's a road. This is the one road that is leading out, and then there's another road that links this way, and this is the other way. So you can see this is the road network. So if the Russians actually push in this direction, even if they struggle here and if they succeed in this region, they can still push in this way and still cut off the road. The road around Netelove or Yasno-Brodivka can be quite dangerous. The Russians are pushing from Vodian and Pervomayske. So but anyway, all these big arrows is going to take months or weeks to months to fulfill. So I'm just saying that what is the operation, what is the mission that they're actually on to do all these things. Anyway, as you can see, pre-war entrenchment positions all around this area. There's a pretty much defensive line around here, so it's not so easy, easier said than done for the Russians. So there is geolocation of Russian forces over just north of this lake, and an interesting information at Pervomayske is that from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they said that the attack come from the east of Pervomayske. So which means that so Pervomayske is this very banana town, a very, very long town here, or football soccer socks. So the Russians are actually pushing in this direction. It seems like they are pushing in this direction. So they are actually trying to cut off the Ukrainian forces that is actually now geolocated all the way in the south of Pervomayske. So if this is the attack, this is the vector, the Ukrainian forces will have to do a withdrawal towards the north, because then if not, they will be encircled by the Russian forces, which is then not ideal. So this is probably what is happening around here. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces within Tonenke, so which prove that the Ukrainians are still over there. All these pushes are not very successful. The video that I talk about, I show the single tank that went on the suicide run and then actually managed to succeed its crazy mission and withdraw. Is actually within this region here. This is where the Russian tank, this is the roundabout, and then he actually drove all the way through into this area here, started firing into allegedly Ukrainian positions, and then it withdraw. This is actually the location in the south of Avdiivka. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces at this bridge region, or the railway and the road bridge, shows that Ukrainians indeed have returned to this position that they previously lost to the Russians. So this is the situation, which means the Russians may not actually be in this area here. So we will continue to monitor. As you can see, the Russians captured the positions but did not want to hold it. They actually withdraw and let the Ukrainians come back. So like the octopus say, it's a trap. So over in the north, geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by drones, and RT is in this area here, which actually shows the Ukrainians actually have positions along the river. They are actually holding the entire river or lakes region, as well as this water plant, this water filtration plant. So the Russians are now pushing for the filtration plant. Now they are pushing southward, south of Krasnohorivka. They have the volcano, the slag heap. So this actually provides them a pretty good intel of the Ukrainian positions from the high ground, and then they started to push a bit towards the coke plant, but they did not really enter or invade the industrial area with the plans of capturing it. It seems to be pretty much just probings, and we are still looking at what the Russians planning to do next. Further up north, the Russians have entered into Stepove in the most eastern part. There is still no true push to try to capture the whole town. There is Ukrainians counter-attacking in this direction, and I also did post a video of Bradley actually tried to do some fire mission against the specific building within the Svatove, and then as it withdraw, it got hit by FPV or some kind of anti-tank missile or some sort. So and then it got destroyed by the Russians. So so that is pretty hazardous kind of thing to do. And then further up in the north, as I mentioned, there is mention about the fighting towards Kherson by Deep State UA, and the Russians are pushing in 2 different directions and also in this direction. So they're putting pressure. The Ukrainians have very good positions around Kreminna and Novosilka. So and then geolocation shows that the Ukrainians are still very close to the railway track, which means the Russians have not really moved much around this area here. So nothing much to worry about for the people who are supporting Ukraine. The front line is still holding pretty well over at the Avdiivka Front. We move on over into the Niu-York Front. This New York City, the pirated version, over at this near Mayorsk, there is again fighting reported near Pivnishne. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they mentioned Pivnishne on the 13th of November, which I don't think so. This town is pretty far away. So there might either this is the one that they are talking about, or there is actually another town that is cannot be found on Google Maps, which they are referring to. So I will continue to see how this goes. If it continues to look really weird, then I would definitely go and try hunt where is this Pivnishne. Tentatively, it's not a very important town, whatever it is. There's Ukrainian forces near Mayorsk, geolocated within the forest region, got hit by the Russian drones. And that's it from the New York Front. We move into the South Bakhmut Front. So this is Bakhmut City. In the southern part of Bakhmut Front, the Russians continue their counter-offensive operation towards Klishchiivka, Andriivka, and Kupiansk, with Ukrainian forces counter-attacking over at the Klishchiivka region as well as Kupiansk. So there's no need to go through the details. I think you guys are not interested in which day or which date they attack. For those that have access to this map, if you are DPA officer or DPA general, you have access to this map, which means you are a Patreon, Coffee, YouTube member. On a monthly basis, you'll probably be able to get this. But at the officer level, $10 a month, you will be able to access this. But geolocation of Ukrainian forces just around the railway track continue to show that the Russians have not actually break through this line of defense just yet. The situation continues to be pretty well for the Ukrainians. They're still holding the positions pretty well. There is continued reports about fighting towards Ivanyivske, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, on the 13th to the 14th. I'm not exactly sure. Sorry for the double clickings. If it's coming from this direction, or is it coming down the road? There is no indication by anyone else about any push towards Ivanyivske. So we will continue to monitor, but tentatively I put it as this direction for documentation purposes of this mapping. Over the northern flank, there is major changes. Previously, the front line was around here. This time around, the front line has been pushed. Deep State UA have updated their map, showing massive progress from the Russians as the front line is re-established almost around the heights of where the Wagner forces were. So there is a defense trenches around this area here. This is actually the furthest the Wagner forces ever went to. So this area here is basically is close to where the Russian forces or the Wagner forces ever went. It's just around 1 kilometer away from the furthest line they ever achieved. So the Russian forces is actually conducting some very serious offensive operation in this northern side, and it was not particularly mentioned by the OSINT, because the Russian OSINT actually operates on the interest of the Russian military, so they don't reveal operations that easily sometimes. And then the Ukrainians are also trying to keep a secret about their failures until they can't keep it anymore, which is what we are seeing now with the Russians suddenly pushing so many kilometers. That actually surprised me. It's around a 2 kilometer push of the front line, and they are getting very close to Bogdanivka. So we might be seeing a battle at Bogdanivka pretty soon if they just able to get through another farmland or two, and then they will. Then this area here will be actually the furthest extent of where the Wagner forces ever have achieved. And if the Russians able to enter Bogdanivka and start fighting within it, they would have exceeded what the Wagner forces have ever done. And of course, the Russian forces actually never captured the full trio of fortifications. I think the Wagner only managed to capture 1.5, like half of this. And then, of course, we might also see a Russian attack towards Kromove. But Kromove is a hard to defend place, very hard to defend, so I don't expect much from this. Strategically, it's not important. It's more important to actually go for Bogdanivka, cut the road from behind, and then stuff off this entrenchment. The Ukrainians will have no choice but to withdraw. So this we shall continue to monitor. This is actually getting very exciting. Finally, some real shit is actually happening over at this northern part of this Bakhmut front. We move further up. There is fighting reported near Dubovo Vasilivka. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 12th, not sure what is this supposed to mean, so we can just kind of ignore it. We move on into the Siversk Front. So this is Siversk city. This is the Siversk Front line, and Siversk is one of the, I would say, the most difficult place for the Russians for a lot of the time. The Russians always have trouble trying to attack into the Siversk front, and fighting is reported at Mykolaiivka on the 15th and over at Razdolivka. So we on the 13th and 15th. So but these are not offensive operations. These are just probes, tactical in nature, I think. So the front line don't really change much. We don't see much about the rest of this area here, or the previous fighting at Sperne or Velyka or Kamyanske, just one off. The Ukrainians continue to be attacking over at Bilohorivka from the 12th to the 14th. We didn't see any reports on the 15th about this. The Russian Defense Ministry reported the 13th and the 14th. So the Ukrainians are maybe expanding, trying to create a bit more buffer around Bilohorivka. I don't think the Ukrainians are in the position to do some massive offensive and go towards Severodonetsk and capture it. I don't think they are in that kind of condition. So let's see how this goes. Over at this Kreminna Front, at the Kreminna Front, we have fighting around the Zaporizhzhia forestry again, with the Ukrainians and the Russians clashing within the forest region, particularly south of Kuzmine, where the Ukrainians are actually attacking as well. Both reported, the Russian Defense Ministry and actually only Russian Defense Ministry, they reported that they repelled the special operation brigade of the Ukrainians, and then they actually went on the counter. So 14 the Ukrainians attacked, Russians counter attack on the 15th. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces by Crimean Caprice got shot by the TOS-1A. I did post that video. Further geolocation of a Ukrainian tank deep within the forest, north of the Seversky Donetsk River, shows that the Ukrainians have tanks within this region here, which means they are actually taking this forest very seriously. They are holding this place. But also show that the Russians do have quite strong surveillance capability and are able to strike Ukrainian positions in the rear within the forest region. Fighting at Dibrova was reported on the 13th. Not sure where, if it's coming from the south or from the west. And then there's some clash around Torske, which is not particularly important. Further up north, we have a geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at Nevsky. They got hit by the Russian FABs. The FABs is actually the bombs that they actually attach to wings. When they drop from the plane, it looks like the plane actually give birth to baby planes. That's what it looks like to me. So moving on over at the Svatove Front. At the Svatove Front, there is some probing operations or attacks. Over at Novosilka 12 to 13, there was reported alleged fighting around the Novosilka region. Then it got switched to Nadia. Stemerkivka continued to see some probes as well, some attacks or fighting as well. But it's nothing very significant, so you probably wouldn't care. And that's all from the Svatove Front. We move into the Kupyansk Front. So this is Kupyansk. In the Kupyansk Front, this is actually the other major offensive area, with the Russians pushing in the Sinkivka region or Liman-Pershi region, the forest south of Masyukivka. There is push towards Petropavlivka, around the Khyslivka, Ivanivka, Olyanske, Timkovka, and the south of Petrotravneve, with the Ukrainians counterattacking at Zagororivka, as well as the Timkovka region, as well as a counterattack over at Sinkivka. So this is the strategic situation. As you can see, it doesn't look like much have changed. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces just off Khyslivka. Russians are geolocated in the south, in the, what would you call this, southwest of Petrotravneve, and that actually changed the front line a little bit. It pushed the front line further south a bit, but it is not much changes. Despite all this offensive operation, it feels like it's still pretty much in the very early stage. It's still the grinding stage. It's still not the breakthrough stage. It's still not that far ahead. It still looks like a deliberate attempt to draw more Ukrainian forces into the Kupyansk Front, and then have to spread them out across a long front line to be destroyed. That feels like what the Russians are trying to do. As in my opinion, the sensing that I get is that the Russians now have manpower advantage at the front. They have more trained personnel and more equipment, more ammo, and of course, we also see the return of the Grads. So just now I talked about Lancets, but there's also the return of the Grad launchers. So we haven't seen Grad rockets being used for half a year, I would say, or more. And it looks like indeed the Russians starting to either build new ones, make new ones, or they starting to buy it from North Korea. So, or they could also buy it from China, but the most likely is North Korea, because Russia actually have a better relationship with North Korea than China. So I think North Korea will welcome the trade, because North Korea need trades. So this is likely what happened. They bought the Grad launchers, the Grad rockets, and then they're able to start to use the Grads again. So yeah, so that's it from the Kupyansk Front, and that's it for the SITREP or summary for the day of 627 to 630 for the 12th to 15th of November. Thank you for watching. Sorry for the mouse. It won't be fixed very soon because I need to buy it. And yeah, so let me know in the comments what you think. Do share this with your friends, family, contacts, whoever who are still interested in this war after what, 630 days. So there's a very, very long war. And yeah, and that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.